Well,
Yes.
Bree, thanks a ton for being on the Fully Alive podcast. You've been a guest on the Disciples Made podcast. You've been a friend. You and Ryan, your husband, and your kids have been friends for a long time, but our listeners, I haven't told them anything about you yet here on the Fully Alive podcast. So will you share just a little bit about your family and what you do for a living?
Yeah, I definitely will. So my family and I live in Kansas City. So we're here with my husband, Ryan, and our two kids, Ava and Aaron, and they are teenagers, both of them. So watch out.
Yes.
It's a lot
Yes.
it's a lot of things all at once. But we are a part of, which you'll hear more about, the Kansas City Underground, and our church family is in our neighborhood. And
Mm.
so that is where we have our extended spiritual family, we call them. And so I do part-time work for the Kansas City Underground as the coaching director. So I help walk alongside, we call our missionary disciple makers, walk alongside them so that they are supported, encouraged, and resourced and have everything that they need. And then also I am co-vocational. So I also work at Willow Tree Supports.
And
I'm going
what
to stop
is
right there
that?
because I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say
Okay.
this. I forgot. So
All
what do you
right.
think I should go back for? The whole
Just
thing?
start co-vocational.
Okay. And I'm co-vocational, and so I work at a day program with adults with special needs here in the area. And so when that job, I'm also a coach. So I kind of do a lot of coaching all around. I am an employment coach. And so what I do is go with our individuals who function at a high enough level to be able to hold work in the community. And I help them keep their jobs because, as you can imagine, that could be some fun and interesting stories. So
Absolutely. Love that. And I cannot wait for people to hear kind of the steps that you've taken toward this end. And because we've invited you to be on this podcast to talk about the development of that personal calling. You can actually hear it in your voice as you describe these things, the passion for
yeah.
these things, which is, and you can see it in the smile that's coming out of your face right now. Personal calling is something that hits the chords of our soul, and they have hit yours well. It's one of the most beautiful things about you and Ryan, your entire family. But before getting into some of those life specifics, how would you describe the concept of personal calling, and why is it so important to living fully alive through Jesus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you and I have talked lots of times about Ephesians 2:10.
Mm-hmm.
That verse is very, very key because in that Bible verse, we are called masterpieces, which
Yes.
means that there has been care and time taken in crafting us into who you see today. And God doesn't pull any punches. I mean, He takes all the time to do that. And if you think of the word masterpiece, that's not just some piece of art I threw together. I mean, it is something that I've taken time on and worked through. So if we are God's masterpiece, then later on in that verse, it talks about how He has prepared us for the good works that He has for us to do. And so oftentimes we'll refer to it as the masterpiece mission.
Mm-hmm.
So finding your calling is discovering how God has created you as the masterpiece that you are, and then what is the specific mission He has that only you can do.
Mm.
So,
I
what
love
I
that part
mean
of it.
by that is that there are a lot of people who can bring good news of Jesus to their neighborhood, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I am crafted specifically to be able to bring it to this neighborhood where we live. And God has orchestrated that from the beginning of time. There are a lot of people who can work with adults with special needs, but He has created me to be able to work with the people with special needs that I'm working with right now in the location and the city. And I mean, we serve a big God, and so
Mm.
he knows all the details and He puts that all together. And so there's a very specific skill set and gift set that He gives us, but also that He knows exactly where to apply that wherever we are. So
Excellent. And I love the fact that that's not just like slogans for you, things that you just rip off as a coach, but you are probably actually thinking of this very specific ways. He's crafted you for both of those roles in your life as as you were going through it. Can you know, this is an odd question, perhaps. What is your earliest recollection of sensing that God had a personal calling with your name on it?
Mm, I think high school was probably the earliest time I remember thinking, yeah, I think maybe I've been created to do this thing. But I think that even earlier, if we look back, or specifically, if we have people who watched us grow up, and I bet they could tell us and speak into that and say, ooh, but even when you were little, I saw this and I saw this and I saw this, right? But
Oh,
for
yeah.
me, realizing it, I think was probably high school. And so that was when I discovered my calling. And also, I will say, I think that you can have more than one calling. And I think callings can change. And I think callings can shift. So I'll talk about that a little more. But one of my very first callings was education. So
Yeah.
being a teacher. And so I got a degree in elementary education and special education. The reason um, one of the big reasons that I started focusing on special education was because I had the opportunity to spend the summer with a young lady named Elizabeth. And she had some pretty significant special needs, and they needed someone to be with her, just be
Mm.
with her all day and take her places and go and do things and explore and find adventure. So I did this as a 17-year-old, and God love that family. They must have trusted me because I did not know what I was doing for sure. But that summer, being with her, and just she was literally just became a part of my life and I a part
Mm.
of hers. That was the first time when God said, yeah, it's not just elementary ed, it's special education. And I want you to be able to work with people with special needs.
And what year was that? That was high school, you say?
Yeah, that was when I was 17.
17 years old. So you're already sensing that this isn't going to be just a career path for you. This is a calling. Like, this is something that's in your guts. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, because like you said earlier, it just lit me up,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's super important to realize that what what lights me up doesn't necessarily light you up, and vice versa, and the same for anybody else. There, it's when you find that thing that you're just like, I can't not do that thing.
Yes.
That's when you
Love that.
know you're leaning into your calling and your sweet spot.
Excellent. So, what folks will definitely not know on this call is how our relationship started. Our relationship started when you were part of the team, the pastoral advisory team at Westside Family Church. When I came out to interview, so you interviewed me for a job,
Yes,
and
I did.
yes, and so that's a really large church, 5,000 people or so on the weekend at that time, and so you kind of have to be a sought after person in a church of that size to be on a small team like that that advises the pastoral team. Um, you were highly recruited to join the kids ministry team, which seems like it would be a fit for somebody that had committed themselves to education. So, what influenced your decision to not take those roles? I know we talked about this a long time ago when I first started recruiting you for the Next Steps team, but what I wanted other folks to know. I mean, you were probably asked several times to join that. So, why was that not a fit?
Yeah, I was. And by people that I loved and still love, and I'm like, oh, it would make sense for me to go work with them on that team. And that's what I was thinking is kind of like on paper, totally made sense. She has
Mm-hmm.
a degree in elementary education. She's got the time. She's staying at home with her kids. She's doing this, stuff. And so it made sense on paper, but I just didn't want to. It's just kind of what it was. Um, One thing that you and I, Brian, have talked a lot about is somebody serving in their sweet spot.
Hmm.
And so I want to talk about that a little bit because that illustrates my point. When it sounds a little bit rough when I just say I just didn't want to do it.
I just don't want it. That's
Right.
a spiritual thing to say. That's a godly thing to say, which is probably where you're going. So yeah, let me
So,
shut up and let you keep going here.
no, no, it's fine. So, what I say is, you're serving in your sweet spot or your calling when you're gifted to do that thing and you're passionate about doing that thing.
Hmm.
So, I was gifted to work on the children's ministry team. I had the degree, I had the experience, I could rally the kids and do all the things, but I wasn't passionate about doing it at that time. And so that goes back to the point that I was making, is that God can shift your calling.
Hmm.
And I mean, he's God. So he's going to do whatever he wants to do for the greatest impact for his kingdom.
Yes.
So he started to shift my calling away from working with elementary students, and he started kind of shifting it into groups, you
Hmm.
know, which was kind of the next area of calling in my life, for a long time, and really still is working with small groups and groups of people with spiritual growth.
Yes. So I'm going to get to that in a second, but I wanted to just repeat the principle that you've made so clear and so helpful. Uh, God actually controls the switch in our soul about the things that we long to do, and that can shift. And, it seems to me that there's that some people might have some baggage that says something like, well, God would never ask you to do something that you want to do. He would only ask you to do those things that you don't want to do. So it's a sacrifice. Like that's a really broken view of a good father who wants to love his kids. So
Mm-hmm.
the tasks that he gives us to do, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, uh, have that soul connection or that heart connection. And I just wanted to address that quickly for folks because, as you can see, as your life demonstrates over and over and over again, as you pursued that which God gave you a passion for, he also provided major fulfillment and accomplishment to that end for his kingdom and for his glory. So at that time you were volunteering in a small group ministry at the church, and when I asked you if you were interested in doing that as a part-time job, you readily accepted, which surprised me because I just thought you were unhireable. I just thought she just has not no interest. She's got young kids, etc. What same question? What influenced that decision, and was that role a fit for you at that time?
Mm-hmm. Well, so yes, like the right, working with the children's ministry made sense on paper, but I wasn't passionate about it. This one also made sense, and I was passionate. So I started to see that shift. So ever since I started a relationship with Jesus in college, it's like from day one, I was involved in some type of group that was seeking spiritual growth. That's where I saw the movement, right, in my life. So while he's cultivating the love for children and the love for people with special needs, he's also on this other level cultivating my love for groups and seeing people grow spiritually together and in community. And so he's kind of doing these two different levels of calling development in my life, I would say. And the other thing is that I was thinking about this. I asked some trusted people around
Mm,
me what they thought about that. Like, do you think that's a good fit for me? And then they were able to speak into that and say, yes, I think so. And I'd actually asked people about working with the children, and they said, yeah, that makes sense, but do you want to do that? Doesn't seem like you want to
mm,
do that, type of
they
thing.
could read it.
Yeah. So,
Wow,
and so the key there is trusted people. Like, it's got to be people who know you well and will speak truth to you.
good.
So that was also a key. So it made sense to me based on the calling that he was bringing up around groups and that spiritual growth aspect. But also, people were able to speak into my life and say, yeah, I do think that'd be a good fit for you.
So good, so good. I'm going to point out a trend that I'm seeing here. It was significant life experiences that actually called out that passion in you. So to go back, I can't remember the girl's name. Melissa, you said that
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, Elizabeth that you spent that time with shaped your heart, created a passion for it. You grew personally in a small group. And so that was of such value that God used that to create a hunger in you to help provide that environment for others. And that is so big on the like principles of personal calling. He'll usually use a life experience, a part of your story in the past, to
Right.
help determine a part of the story going forward. So, okay, things were rolling along nicely with that. You were on the Next Steps team. We had a fantastic team. We still, 5 years later, connect over texts through
Mm-hmm.
that team because of the chemistry that God just brought together. It was awesome. And then God and his sometimes horrible sovereignty allow that's a joke. It's always beautiful sovereignty, but sometimes it doesn't feel kind on the front end. You heard a message that Dan Sutherland preached called Be a Priest in Your Own Neighborhood. What do you recall about that message and the impact that it had on you and then on your neighborhood?
Yeah. Um, well, only God can truly shift your calling to something new that He's preparing you for.
Mm,
Because when this came up, we were not at all thinking about our neighborhood.
mm.
So the name of this sermon series or something was called Sent.
Yep.
And we get to this one point, and the pastor was asking, to whom are you sent? And it was like a lightning bolt for
Mm,
me. I just remember during that sermon, and he said, God said, the ladies on your street. And I thought, okay, but I don't know the ladies on my street. In fact, I know two of them, one here and one here, like on each side of us, like that. That was
mm,
it. And so I thought, okay, I don't know what this means, but it was very clear to me. And so uh, started building relationship with those ladies and um, working working to build the trust between us because none of these ladies knew each other. I mean, it was like people would drive into their garages and the doors would shut, like nobody came out. I
mm.
mean, didn't know. So the first time we all got together, I took a little flyer around and I invited everybody, and there were 12 houses on the block, and all 12 ladies showed up at my house, which A, that was amazing, right?
Yeah.
But B, what was even more amazing is that some of these ladies, let's see, probably about half of them had lived on the block 25 years or more, and
Wow.
they did not know each other. So they're sitting in my basement like, which house do you live in? How long have you been there? I mean, I was just
Cool.
floored. It's like, wow, God, what is happening here? And how has this void been created, right? So anyway,
Mm,
just work to build that trust and that relationship. And shortly thereafter, my husband Ryan just really gained a passion for the men on the block, and then we started reaching out to the families, and then this all started to change our whole everything.
mm.
It really
Yes, it
did.
did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. As the team leader of the team you were on, I started to see a shift. Like this Bree girl who I only knew had a passion for groups and was on that because you succeeded in that job, in that role. You were amazing at it and did a fantastic job. Even as a part-time employee in a church like that, multiple generations of life group leaders were in your wake. It was just so awesome to see. But the passion in your heart for the work in your neighborhood was getting stronger. And as that was happening, what was happening for the passion in groups? Tell us a little bit more about what it must have felt like as that shift was starting to happen.
Mm-hmm. Um, well, I will say that passion for groups and that type of environment and that type of learning did not fade at all. It
Gotcha.
again, this word shift, right? It just started to shift. So my energy started, I wanted to start pouring out my energy more to our neighbors because God was creating this passion and this calling um, for me to help these ladies connect and eventually come to know the good news of Jesus Christ. And so um, the passion for groups didn't change. What
Mm,
shifted was where my energy was supposed to go.
that
And
makes a lot of
so,
sense.
yeah, about, let's see, 2010. So it was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years kind of into this, just started sensing that my time at the church that we were at was coming to a close. And God also made that very clear. It was just,
Hmm.
it was strange. It was very hard, very difficult because for this one, it kind of like didn't make sense to leave. So that's kind of an interesting point too, Brian. It's like things were going well at the church, groups were successful, things were happening, there was health, like all this stuff. So it really did not make sense for me to leave and shift to um, ministry in our community. But
Hmm.
God told us to do it. So we did it. So it's like sometimes it makes sense, but you shouldn't do it. And sometimes it doesn't make sense, but you should do it. That's
That's
confusing.
wisdom. We got to say that again. Say that one more time because that one has to land.
Sometimes it makes sense, but you shouldn't do it.
Yep.
So, like me with the children's ministry, it made sense, but I shouldn't do it. And sometimes it doesn't make sense, like leaving something that's going awesome, but I should do it.
So I think I know the answer to this already, but could you see this being your primary priority back in 2013 when we were at the height of group stuff, 2013, 14? Could you, if somebody told you on a card, Bree, one day you will prioritize developing disciples in your neighborhood and you'll no longer be a part of a group process at a large church, what would your blink answer be?
I think I would have been like, yeah, right. Because in our example, none of these people knew each other. You're telling me that a
Yeah.
few years from now, they're going to be interacting and loving and reading the scripture together. And I'm like, yeah, right. Which I think is part of the reason why God's sovereignty is so amazing and he protects us from what's coming. And he just gives us the next step because if we knew, we either wouldn't believe him or
Yes.
we would doubt him or
Duck,
we would run the other way
duck,
or,
run away, run
yeah.
away.
So no,
Exactly.
I wouldn't have. Mm-mm.
I remember, I mean, there's so many principles for folks, and I imagine the folks that are listening to this podcast right now are going, "This is a nuanced, like unpredictable thing," and I think you would say, "Yeah, it is, and it's
Mm-hmm.
the most exciting thing ever."
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
You know
good.
what's super interesting? This probably is very nuanced and doesn't apply to everybody, but I'm just thinking about this. I think it was about every 10 years
Hmm.
that God kind of shifted me. I've never thought about that before. It was like elementary special ed for 10 years, groups for 10 years, and now I'm on this next one and it's a ride, man. It's fun.
Which, if there's a trend, there might be another phase
For sure.
coming,
For,
which is like it never makes sense when you're in it, but as the transition stuff starts to hit, it certainly does.
Mhm.
So what's it like to be here at the end or in the middle of phase three, so to speak, and to look back and to see all those steps toward this end? What
Mhm.
what thoughts come to mind as we even mention that out loud?
I think the first thing I think of is just the word beauty.
Mm,
Like God is such a masterful story writer,
mm,
and he writes billions of them, you know, every day. And
it's good.
part, it's so good to be part of the story, to know that you're a part of the story that he is writing, and that my story intersects with his. Like it's a part of his, and they're all intertwined. And I just think it's beautiful. Yeah. Oh, well, now that I think about it, Brian, there is kind of a fourth phase because now I'm working with adults with special needs.
Ooh,
So so he brought that one back around. Ooh, so
yes.
he brings callings back around. So not only can he shift them, but he can bring back an old one
Oh
and
yeah.
reignite it. And that is what he
Oh
did
yeah.
for me because I didn't work with individuals with special needs for quite some time, probably probably about a decade. And then he made it very clear to me in three separate instances that I was to go back into that. So, yes, I don't know.
Excellent.
That's
Well, we'll start to wrap this thing down and ask about takeaways. I'm going to interject the takeaway before I invite you to share two or three key takeaways. I remember in the toward either in the middle or toward the end of that shift from the passion for groups to the passion to the ladies in the neighborhood, we were on a retreat together. Uh, Me and you had helped, you and Shelly and several others helped recruit probably 45 ladies to come out to a whole multiplication event. And I remember calling you out and mentioning something about this calling. Do you remember that moment?
yeah, I
Uh,
do. I was in the back of the room trying to hide.
yeah. Tell us a little bit about that from your perspective, because your perspective is better than mine. And then I want to pull the principle out and then ask you about other
Yeah.
principles.
Tell me exactly what you said. I believe you said, I think I'm going to lose. Bree, what did you say?
We The question came up about, between loyalty to a volunteer role that you've been doing and loyalty to your personal calling. Like people were feeling a
Mm,
tension about that in the room. And I just wanted to give an illustration to folks. I said, look at Bree back there. Bree's one of the key players on our team. She's trusted, she's skilled, people know her and love her and trust her. We've got momentum, all the things. And I'm watching live her heart shift from the next steps department to the community impact department. And I am pretty sure I'm going to lose her soon. And I said all this without us ever debriefing it. It
no.
was a stupid move or bold move, or I don't know what it was, but it was trying to pull out
Yes.
that principle. You have to allow the Spirit's calling, what is embedded in people, to thrive, and you have to create space for it if you have the potential to do that.
Yes. Yes. What I remember about that, well, first of all, I was surprised. I remember I turned super red. I was like, whoa,
Sorry.
oh my gosh, what's he saying? But then I realized as you were saying it that it was truth, you
Yeah.
know. But then the other thing that I realized is that your your willingness to let me go per se and your open-handedness with me and my gifts was so key
Mm.
and beautiful and also such a hard thing for a lot of people to understand because I remember people being like, why would you just tell her it's okay to go, like why
It's
would you let her
counterintuitive.
go, what's the thing, what's the deal? And that was really beautiful. So I think that's a really big principle is if you're working with someone anywhere and you see that their passion has shifted, that God is moving them in a direction, it is your obligation to the
Mm.
kingdom to let them go and to encourage them to go and to support them as they go and all these things. Because when we hold
Yes.
so tightly to people just because we need people or just because we think they should stay with us, I mean, you're just arguing with the Holy Spirit at that point, and I don't think that's wise.
It's
So,
never wise. It's never wise. And let me just stretch that out a little bit further. I mean,
mhm.
even if it's not a working relationship, like supervisor, team member, whatever, like spouses, kids, parents, neighbors. Like if you know a neighbor and you've been able to do things together in your own group or whatever, and they get called to something else, or you see that, it's even if it costs you initially, like it cost me. Like we had to figure that out, when the time came. And but make the investment, because nobody is ever more fully alive than when they're partnering with God to use the gifts that He put in them to serve the passions that He's instilled in them.
Yes.
And that's the goal. So
Yeah.
love that. All right. Are there another two or three takeaways that you have from just all this story and growing a personal calling?
Yeah, I have a few. And so I was thinking the first one is ask God what his calling is for you.
Hmm,
I think a lot of people just don't take time to ever ask the Holy Spirit, where are you sending me? How am I gifted? They
that's good.
just either don't ask at all or they just jump into something and then they're uncomfortable because it's not their sweet spot.
Good.
Um, Be open because it could be something that you don't expect. You know, he could have gifted you a certain way and you're like, "What? You want me to what?" And but it's where he wants you. So that's one. Trust the people around you. Like I said
Mm,
earlier, they can speak into you. God can speak to you through them. Those trusted people who can tell you what they see in you
it's
and
good.
call that out. So that's important. Try things, I think would be
Mm,
one of the last ones is try things. Like if you don't know where your sweet spot is or how you're gifted or what you're called to do, try some things. You never know. But what you will know real quick is where it's not your sweet spot. But
yes.
sometimes we just have to get out there and do things to kind of try to start to figure that out.
Excellent. Your try things and be open made me think of another one. Uh, don't say no for God or to God. And the specific thing that you made me think of is I remember sitting in a leader's maid. I was probably in the third one or maybe fourth one, probably third. And one of the guys in the group looked at me and said, Brian, you've never acknowledged the fact that you have an apostolic gift and or a leaning. And I was like, no. See, the apostles, that's this kind of person or this kind of person. And I named off some names that were very popular and familiar on the team there at Westside. And they're like, yeah, they've got that too, but you've got it in spades. And I see it here, here, and here. And I remember going,
Right.
totally, totally afraid to accept that. But
Yeah.
so that was interesting. So I listened to them, and then I kind of took that to friends, trusted friends, like you've said, and I was like, okay, there it is. I better start leaning into this,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Don't say no to God and don't say no to God for other people. Like
yes, that's excellent.
let them figure out what it is, and take it to the Lord. So yeah.
Very good. Anything else as we before we wrap this up? Like, what's on your heart to share with folks about personal calling or anything that's related to living fully alive?
Mm, um, you have one. You have a personal calling. Like
Mm,
that is a given. So if you are in a place where you are discouraged because you're thinking, I have no idea what my personal calling is, I haven't heard from the Lord on that, be patient and wait and give it time because he'll reveal it to you. Because
mm,
number one, he promised that. Number two, he wants to use the gifts he's given you to further his kingdom. So he's not going to leave those dormant. He will wake them up. So I would just say if you're discouraged or you're just clueless, take some steps, figure out what to do,
mm.
and then just give it some time because it'll come.
I love it. And we have several stories of women that we kind of worked in tandem who would say things like, I don't have any gifts. Remember some of those individuals? I don't have any gifts. I don't have anything to offer. How many people have said that? And then they stuck with it. And then
Yeah.
boom, God gave them insights and they started taking additional steps. And
Yeah.
now they're rolling. And it's
Yes.
beautiful.
Absolutely.
And we've got a couple of great resources for that. The GPS assessment,
Mhm.
you can find at giftpassionstory.com or inside the Fully Alive app under assessments. You've got the whole Find Your Place course that is free to take in the Fully Alive app under the develop courses. Those are all there. And there's a lot of people in that community. If you have questions about this, you can just post those questions in the community forum space, and there will be a lot of folks to step in and answer. Bree, what a joy again to have you here on the Fully Alive podcast, to hear your story, to just give thanks for what we've been able to see along this journey. Learn from God, learn from one another in the process. Thanks for being here. Last
Yeah.
word.
Absolutely. That's all. Love you, man.
All right, love you too. Take care, Bree. Thanks for being
All right.
here.
Bye.